The Cast Compass Podcast, hosted by Michelle and Lisa Cast. Welcome to the Cast Compass Podcast. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lisa. And we're a couple of moms, and your hosts on this wild, beautiful ride called life.
We're here to help you navigate your next phase, whether that's family building, career shifts, personal growth, or rewriting the story of what your life should look like.
Our path hasn't been traditional. IVF, job losses, parenting through chaos, starting over in our 40s. But we've learned how to trust our gut and follow our compass, even when it's scary.
Each week we'll bring real talk, a little astrology, a lot of heart, and stories that make you feel seen.
So if you're craving connection, clarity, and maybe a cocktail along the way, welcome home. Welcome to the Cast Compass Podcast. We're Michelle and Lisa, partners in life, moms to our 3-year-old son, Leo.
And guides for anyone navigating their next big chapter. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lisa.
And this is episode 2,
The Unconventional Path. This episode is all about choosing a different path than what the world expects and what that actually looks and feels like.
I think we can both safely say, Lisa, that choosing a different path began when we chose to be together.
I think it's safe to say that we also chose different paths even before we got together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because we were theater nerds. Don't forget about that. So, like Lisa said, this episode is all about choosing a different path than what the world expects. And we want to talk a little bit about our personal and professional pivots. We've done a lot of things, right? Fitness, production. Mm-hmm. Lisa works in law. Now I'm transitioning to life coaching.
Not a lawyer.
I've had job losses. We've done IVF. But I think we both can safely say that choosing a different path began from a very young age. For me, I think when we chose to be together and we said, we are going to do this at all odds. We're never going to tell anyone. It was 2001, being gay was not necessarily accepted. It's not what we expected for ourselves. And we were terrified. For me, even though I knew prior maybe to even meeting you that I was not someone who was necessarily going to just follow the norm. I just loved like people. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so obsessed with boys or, oh, I'm so obsessed with girls. I was like, I need a person. I have a connection with them. That's what I'm attracted to. That's not like the norm. A lot of people fit themselves into a box, right? Even when we made that choice to be together, we were worried about our families. We were worried about being judged. We were worried about how others would react. It really was not a great way to start off a relationship or our early college years.
No.
But we knew then that even with all the obstacles, we wanted to be together forever. So making that choice, I think, as an adult, even though we were only 18, it was freshman year of college, was when I said, okay, I may have been someone who was open and fluid and whatever, but I am making this choice to love this person against all odds, no matter what people are going to think, even though I'm not going to tell anyone. Nowadays, people can come out and say, I'm going to love who I love no matter what. Mm-hmm. For us, it was, we're going to stay in the closet forever. So that for me was where I think the choice began.
Right. I mean, making the choice to accept my sexuality was probably the first big, most certain decision I've ever made. I was even more uncertain about my college path and my, what I was going to do for a living. I was more uncertain about that than the day that I came to say, like, listen, I said to myself, like, you're going to either run from this your entire life or you're going to make what at the time was a tough decision and be who you are, regardless of the fact that it doesn't fit societal norms. Saying yes to knowing I was gay was definitely scary. It was one of those, first scary steps that I ever made. But again, it was the most certain thing that I knew, right? And I think it also then, shortly after that, I met Michelle. Like, as scared as I was to, and this is where, the whole compass thing comes, right? The inner compass, like the direction you're supposed to go in. And so even though I knew it was not what everybody else was going to be happy with, I knew it was right for me to accept my sexuality And then as scary as that was, I thought I was going to be alone forever. I didn't think I would ever be with anybody. I thought I would be in the closet forever. I wouldn't meet anybody. I would not have love in my life. And then shortly after that, I met Michelle. So just like small little framework there of the way saying yes and moving in the direction that you know is right for you, the good things will follow.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar moment when I met you where I had kind of been stuck in a weird friendship thing. And I was just like, you know what? This isn't serving me. I'm going to let this go. And it had been kind of like consuming me. And when I was able to say, I literally was walking down the street the day that I met Lisa towards the theater that we met at. And I said, I'm done. I'm letting that go. And I walked into the Circle in the Square Theater and Lisa was sitting right there. Talk about fate, y'all.
Yeah.
I love this for us.
Love reliving the moments we met and the decisions we made.
I do.
It's important. It's important for the people listening to understand that this has been our whole lives.
Yeah.
Making decisions that most people would not make in order to live the true path.
I mean, all the LGBTQ people we know have made the decision.
Well, yeah. That and so many other things, which we'll talk about.
Totally. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a great segue. So, you know, we met in college, so we often go back to college when we're talking about where we met, when we're talking about where our career paths began, right? So, I mean, it took me more time than I even care to say to finish college due to a number of circumstances. It was really hard for me to not finish in 4 years, intern, and start working like so many of my peers were doing. I came from a family that didn't really have the means. They did try to give me everything, but, you know, college was not paid for. And my dad said, "You're choosing a very expensive school. I don't want to see you get into debt." And I said, well, this is what I want to do. And no one is ever going to tell Michelle Cass no.
This is true. No, it's true. That's also the beauty of you. Like, you also believe that you can make anything happen.
Thank you. And, you know, Lisa and I went out on our own at a young age. I still hadn't finished college. And so began our journey of survival. It really was early on that we decided we're not taking these conventional paths. We're going to do what feels right for us. It wasn't always like ideal. Sometimes it was very scary, but It's what we felt in our hearts.
So, and then in college for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I chose to do what my parents wanted me to do, go to school for business. I didn't care about business. I was terrible at all math things. I had to take classes that were accounting and finance and, ugh.
Yes, but if you had gone into marketing, you would have been very successful. I say this all the time. Lisa is good at everything. I'm going to bring this back to astrology. You're a Taurus. Tauruses are the most hard-working signs in the zodiac, along with Capricorns and Virgos. It's an earth sign thing. Not to say that us fire signs are not hardworking. And everyone's hardworking. I get it, okay? But you cannot hold a candle to a Taurus and their work ethic. They don't stop. They can't stop. They won't stop. They make every boss happy. They make every coworker happy. Their work ethic is like none other. And Lisa is good at almost pretty much everything she does except the violin. That was the one thing she was really mad she couldn't conquer.
Yeah, I always wanted to play the violin.
But if you would have went into marketing, you're very creative, you're very artistic, you would have done well, even though math is not your forte. I jokingly say that if Lisa and I hadn't gone out on our own at the age of, what were we, 21?
Yeah.
20, not even. And
I think it was 21.
She had followed the marketing path and interned. I feel like today she would have been some crazy, high-powered, extremely attractive chief marketing officer.
And only then would I have been extremely attractive. I'm just kidding. Well, thanks. And Leos make it all seem so easy. Even if they get up and pounce at the very last minute, they can still catch their prey. Mm-hmm. So, but as Michelle said, I was a very hard worker. I worked a bunch of part-time jobs in college. And due to family dynamics, I chose to move out early. Michelle was living on campus at the time, and then we wound up moving in together. And again, moving out early was another big, life yes. And it was hard It was definitely scary, but we were lucky to have support in a lot of different areas in our lives, which helped us to persevere.
Yeah. Those were some scary days, but they were memorable. There is really a lot to cover from 2001 to 2011. We lived on campus. We had our first apartment in a very, very bad neighborhood by college. We heard that the gangs were looking out for us.
See? We had support in many different areas of our lives.
We did.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'll never
Appreciate
forget.
that.
Going to the laundromat.
And we persevered.
Getting our coffee from 7-Eleven.
Hey, that's
7-Eleven
coffee was good.
They had the International Delight Creamer.
Yeah, and we drank it. We drank it by the gallon.
We sure did.
And we gained a lot of weight.
We were not fit at that time. Then we had our second apartment. We lived above Jean Smart. Not really Jean Smart, but that was her nickname. That old Italian lady who thought we were just friends.
Just friends in a 1-bedroom apartment with a futon in the living room.
That was a great place.
It was great.
We took in a friend who needed us at that time. We were always trying to give to others. I started working a series of jobs at that time. A whole series. You tried the office job. I did.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Didn't work well.
I mean, it was fine. Just the people that worked there weren't great.
Yeah, they were weird.
And then I ended up at Fridays as a waitress.
And you made all the cashish.
All the cash. All the cash. We traveled. We saved that cash. We made amazing friends that we're still friends with to this day.
Yeah.
Like literally best friends.
Literally.
That like we're in our bridal party. So we did like we did it. Those early days, they really shaped us and who we were. And then we had our last apartment before we moved to the city, which is where Lisa proposed to me. And after we got married in 2011, we were at a really interesting crossroads. And even prior to that, in 2010, my dad had passed away, and I didn't officially have my degree yet. When I tell you how long it took me to finish college, I told you we graduated high school in 2000. We met in 2001. By 2011, when we got married, I still did not officially have my degree. I was working, like I said, a series of dead-end jobs, and I just wanted to work in my industry. And at that time, we actually auditioned for The Biggest Loser. As Lisa mentioned, we were drinking International Delight.
We were drinking.
Is this an ad for International Delight Creamer? We were very overweight. And actually,
it's bad.
I had a gynecologist who I was seeing when we lived in that last apartment before we lived in the city who had been treating me for PCOS. I had PCOS from the age of 18. And at that time, she said, if you don't lose weight, you might not be able to have children. Like, you are going to be pre-diabetic any minute now. Your PCOS is out of control. My ovaries were covered in cysts. I was having so many symptoms, irregular periods, bad skin, hair falling out. It was a mess.
And then hair growth.
And then hair growth in places where hair should not be growing. And I was scared because we knew even at that early age that we wanted to have kids.
Right.
And so we knew we needed to do something drastic. I was 300 pounds.
300.
I mean, I
300
started
pounds.
at 315.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I need to lose weight. We know we want more for our lives. The Biggest Loser was really popular at the time.
Hugely no pun intended. Hugely popular.
We went to an open call.
Yeah.
And we got to the final round twice. We auditioned 2 times. And at that point...
No, you auditioned once, and then we auditioned
together for the couples audition. Both times made it to the final round. Didn't actually make it to the ranch. But we said, we're going to do this on our own. And that's when we began our journey. But that was also kind of like a moment where we knew, like, that's kind of why we did the podcast, the 4C Fitness Show, because we had known that we had wanted to make that journey something that could inspire others the way being on the show would have.
Exactly. And everything changed from that moment. We decided we were going to lose all that weight.
We moved to the city.
But before that,
Yes, we started losing the weight before that.
We started losing weight when we were living on Long Island together. We did this crazy thing where we told family and friends that we were going to put ourselves into isolation so that we could focus solely on our weight loss. And some people hated it. And some people were like, okay.
Some people met us at the laundromat like we asked them to.
Yeah, we said, you can either meet us at the gym, meet us at the laundromat. Maybe if we need to go food shopping, you can come along. But right now, we have to say no to social plans because we can't be sidetracked, can't get derailed. There was too much at stake. It was pretty cool.
It was really cool.
And we
were
actually
successful.
blogged about it a little bit.
We did, because
Look
that's
at the old school blog type stuff. Like, if we can dig it up.
we should.
We have in the past.
Yeah.
It still exists somewhere on the
We've
webs.
been doing this since 2008.
On the
2007.
interwebs. Yeah.
Crazy.
So everything changed from that moment, and talk about choosing a different path than what the world expects. Then we wound up moving to the city, deciding to move to Astoria, which was totally crazy for our family who solely lived on Long Island. And anyone we ever had to visit in Queens or even in Jersey, it was like such a trek. But we did it. We wanted to do it. And we actually each of us had a cousin in Astoria. And we were like, you know what? This is so cool. This just feels like this is it. Like, this is where we should be living. This is what we should be doing.
We knew we wanted to have jobs in the city. We knew we wanted more. We were on this health and fitness journey. Like I said, my dad had passed away. I was sitting at my computer one day looking for jobs in my industry, feeling so defeated. And literally the song Firework came on. I just shared about this on my TikTok. And it felt, my dad passed on the 4th of July. It felt like a message from him, like, you're a firework. You got this. Like, go for it. My dad was born in Astoria.
Right.
And like Lisa said, 2 of our cousins live there. So we were like, we're going to take this plunge. And let me tell you, that plunge paid off. So many of our plunges have. But that was the first one that was like, we took this leap and it was fully worth it.
Right. So we were newly married. We were still in a ton of debt and literally taking this giant leap. It paid off immensely. We not only both ended up getting new and lucrative jobs in a matter of months. Michelle finally got a job at a studio in Manhattan.
Which is where we did our first podcast.
That's where we did our first podcast, which was awesome. But our health and fitness journey really took off. I mean, that's when I lost like 50 to 75 pounds from there.
Yeah.
It was insane. And then we wound up, coming to our final total of 240 pounds combined.
And like we mentioned already, that time everyone was asking us how we were losing so much weight. I was happy to be working in my industry, but I was still craving more creativity. So we started 4C Fitness in 2013.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
Life continued to take us down different paths. After doing the 4C Fitness show for quite a while. A year.
Yeah.
We started to run marathons. We moved again within the city. And eventually, after doing a lot of living and a lot of traveling, we began our IVF journey right before COVID hit. Now, we had found our donor.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in
November 2019. And Michelle's first IUI was supposed to happen in March of 2020, but it got suddenly postponed because the pandemic hit. And then we waited until July. The clinic reopened, and they were like, okay, we have protocols in place, so we're going to pick back up again. So we did the first IUI, Michelle's IUI, in July of 2020. And then after 2 back-to-back attempts, we shifted to IVF. Michelle's first retrieval was in September. Then from there, we were 37 at the time. In July we were, you were 30. I was already 38.
I turned 38 in August. You turned 38 in
during COVID.
Yeah.
So 37, 38 is when we really started. Yeah.
And at the time, after my first retrieval in September, when we made the decision to shift to IVF, because of our age at the time, we said, well, you know what? Let's do a retrieval for Lisa also, so that we could have a better shot with, 38-year-old eggs rather than waiting until 40, which is another story that we will get to. We did get a normal embryo from Lisa's retrieval, which happened in October of 2020. And it turned out that my first retrieval in September of 2020 resulted in 0 normal embryos. So I did another retrieval then in November of 2020, which is where we got our 2 normal embryos.
So 3 retrievals between the 2 of us in the fall of 2020.
Yeah.
Michelle wound up with 2 normals.
Yes.
And I had 1 normal. And then, by society standards, we were not following the typical path to motherhood, right?
Yeah.
Again, unconventional as 2 moms and older women.
It's hard. I'm not going to mince words about it. You know, if you can have kids by or around 35, it's definitely going to be easier. That's not to say people are not having kids up to the age of 45, which, sure, because we're 40. Lisa's going to be 43. Lisa's 43. At the time of this being posted, Lisa is 43. Yes. At the time of this being recorded, Lisa is almost 43.
That's right. Just 72 hours to go.
Yeah, just a little bit. It was hard. We're two moms. We were older. And it definitely has made the journey. So has our weight made the journey. Because, yes, even though we lost all that weight, we have put weight back on. We've always been more voluptuous women. We got pretty small at one time. But, you know.
It's not in our genetics to be super tiny. Or at least not in my genetics.
I'm more Italian, y'all.
We like to eat.
So our IVF and fertility journey led us to having our son, Leo. He's now 3. He did end up coming 8 weeks early in February of 2022.
Bam.
Yeah. Again, an unconventional
path.
We thought that this little boy was going to come in April. We were having our baby shower in March. Everything was going really well throughout my pregnancy. I did have the placenta previa, but it worked itself out. A couple of weird liver enzyme readings, which probably should have been an indication that something was going on. But bam, I got hit with random preeclampsia, which we'll talk about.
Isn't preeclampsia always random?
Well, yes, it is. I got hit with it kind of unexpectedly out of nowhere.
Right.
Isn't it always unexpected? Isn't having a preemie always unexpected? Yes, probably, for the most part. Anyway, after 5 weeks in the NICU, severe reflux, and a cow's milk protein allergy.
Woohoo. During a time where formula was scarce.
Oh my gosh, remember that? This poor baby.
Why?
We both then attempted to return to our careers in July of 2022, which I know that is the conventional path, but let me tell you, it did not feel right.
Oh, God.
Something's not right.
That was wrong.
Something's not right.
Something's not right.
I worked a year before being laid off in July of 2023 due to a slowdown in the industry. And then it took me 11 months to find my next job that I was laid off from in December of 2024 after 6 months in the role. It was then that I knew for sure and certain that society's map was just not for me.
We both knew it. I was like, that's it. We're not doing this.
We're done.
You're done.
You're done, son.
You're just going to do what you feels right for you. Did I just say what yous?
Yous.
What yous feels right for yous.
Did you know Lisa has an actual cousin, Vinny? Yous.
Yeah.
The two youths. I love our random side moments.
I know.
Anyway.
Anything to add about your career here? Might be good to talk about being a non-bio parent.
Listen.
I missed that part.
Put the notes. I'm hot. Are you hot? It's hot.
No.
I'm a little hot. My boobs just touched the microphone.
I keep knocking into it too.
Right.
Yeah, returning to work after being, first of all,
Tell us, Lisa. Tell us.
You know, I actually didn't return to work for 2 years because of COVID. You know, Michelle's office wound up going pretty remote, right? But mine didn't. And
it did for a bit. And then
right.
it went back.
What I mean is like most people returned to work in 2021, at the end of 2021. I left work in March, beginning of March of 2020, and I didn't return to the office until
after Leo was born.
And my parental leave was over at the end of June, July of 2022. And the hardest part, I think, was that, you know, I was the non-biological parent, but I also wasn't in that like societal norm role of the father, right? Where, you know, in heterosexual relationships, like the mom is the mom, right? And she, you know, is either breastfeeding or, you know, taking care of the child. Not that dads don't do that, but then dads will sometimes go back to work sooner than the mom. And in like my brain was trying to adjust, like having having a child, also being a mother, not going through the physical aspect of having a child, but again, being a mother, it was really, really hard for me to adjust. And also understanding how to let go of the fact that I wasn't going to be able to give 150% at the office, giving myself that grace to also then psychologically process that I'm a mother, but a non-bio parent. Like, there's a lot to it.
I think we can have another episode about it.
It's definitely another episode for sure.
And I think it'll come up a little bit in our fertility episode.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to what it means to listen to your compass versus society's map. I've always been pretty true to myself and what I want. My mom, like I mentioned earlier, and my dad would always say, you cannot tell that girl no. Taking no for an answer really isn't an option for me. Not in like a inappropriate way, but when I know that I want something, I go for it. I think that's a little bit of what it is to listen to your compass. If you know there's something you want or that you're meant for, you go for it. And it can be really hard to feel like you're not fitting into society's path or expectations, but really listening to your own heart and compass is always what is going to lead you to being the most content and true to yourself. I mean, there's so much more I can say here, but we'll have to leave it for another episode.
You know, these early episodes are a framework for so much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's very, very true. I think that I have a similar feeling about that. You know, I believe societal maps, if they don't feel right for you, they'll always lead you down a path that leaves you more confused and uncertain than you were when you started. Mm-hmm. And then if you would have just followed the road in your heart, I learned this very early on, right? In what I chose to study in college, and that wasn't really right for me, but it was right for maybe what my parents hoped for or what society thought was smart. So even if the road in your heart isn't the easy one, by example of our own lives, I can say that the universe will support you and bring you exactly what you need to get over whatever obstacles come to you on that road that you're truly meant for.
Yeah, I love that. And here's a question that comes up. How have others reacted to our choices? And how have we handled doubts? As we've mentioned over this past very long episode, we have taken a lot of paths that maybe society would not deem as the smart path. I'm very lucky to have supportive parents. My dad definitely did not want me to go to an expensive college, like I said. He wanted me to choose a practical career. My dad said I should have been a lawyer. He was probably right. But like I said, I was so strong in my convictions and my desires that there really was no stopping me. And I knew in my heart that like production, film, theater, television, that's been what I've wanted from a young age. I used to stand on the cellar doors at my grandmother's house and pretend it was my stage. I mean, a courtroom can be a stage.
Sure.
I digress. Mm-hmm. You can thank my Leo sun, as I've mentioned, and my Aries rising for that one, as well as probably my Capricorn midheaven and my Mars in Scorpio. Now, you might be saying, Michelle, I have no idea what that means. Well, that's why you need to sign up and get a reading with me.
Yes. It's so true. I mean, I can even say, like, as a Taurus, right? These changes are making so many changes and pivots is not in a Taurus's. A Taurian's cards.
We are lucky you had Gemini
Absolutely
rising.
Not. Exactly.
And Gemini moon, girl.
Because I can...
She's adaptable, y'all.
I can at least... I've learned that adaptation is the way to go. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise my Taurus would just have me stuck.
I know. And
who knows where my life would be. Sometimes it still makes me stuck.
We love you for it.
No, you don't love me for being stuck.
I love your hardworking Taurus ways.
Yeah.
But I do prefer your Gemini.
So what was a time that we knew deep down it was time to change course?
I mean, all throughout my career, really. I just knew.
I know.
Right? But like we had to pay the bills. Yeah. I mean, our weight, we talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I always craved finding my way to health and fitness. When I was a kid, I would try out for all the sports teams. Like I wanted to be this like really fit girly and like be like on the basketball team and play. I loved softball so much. I loved sports, but like I wasn't naturally fit. So like, I don't know. I just, when I got older and I gained all that weight, like I just like, there was always something in me that's like, this is not me. Like and Lisa knows when we used to go to the gym, I was like in my element. Like that's my place.
Yeah, you love that. And that's why you became a certified personal trainer.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that.
That's another job I've had.
So many things.
What about you? Was there a time when you knew deep down it was time to change course? Or you don't really want to talk about that today? Maybe we should talk about that next year.
Next year? Yeah.
All right, y'all. Fun segment, rewrites and reroutes, a story where your plan took a turn and led to something better. Did you think about this?
I didn't, but I see your little note there for me.
I don't know. Want to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay.
So when we decided we probably should move back to Long Island, with getting pregnant, COVID, but also being closer to family, wanting our children to grow up closer to their grandparents and extended family, we wound up moving back to my hometown. And it was not something we wanted to do. We looked at every house in every other town that was miles away from my hometown, but
Dun, dun, dun.
the compass refused to shift in the direction we wanted it to.
That's a really good point. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to listen to the compass because it's bringing you where you're meant to go, even though it's not where we thought we were meant to go. Now we absolutely know it was where we were meant to go.
Right. So there's this wonderful home that we went to go look at, and it's right in the middle of my hometown, and it wound up being the home that we purchased.
It had everything we wanted.
It had literally everything we wanted, except for the fact that it was in my hometown.
Find yourself a good realtor who happens to be Lisa's aunt,
Right.
who knew everything we wanted, except for living in Lisa's hometown.
She did. She tried so hard for us.
She did.
She
She
really
said, you
did.
guys have to see it. I
She
know
said,
you don't want to live
I'm
here.
so sorry.
Yeah.
You have to go. You have to go. So,
And it went so, during a time when buying a house was insane,
insane.
it went so smooth. So smooth. The best sellers, lovely people who still live in our town. Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
How
So
it just all fell into place. And I was going through a miscarriage at the time.
That's right.
So like the fact that we still went to see that house and said we're going to buy this house and it all fell into place. It's insane.
it was crazy. That's definitely a story.
I love that. I think we're good to end on that note.
Awesome.
We did it. So listen, do you know someone navigating their own big decision? Share this episode with them and tell us on Instagram what part really hit home for you.
We want to hear it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you
Listen.
so much for coming
And
listening and watching.
yes, follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if this feels like home already, which we really hope it does, leave us a review and share with a friend. We really want to just be able to help as many people as we can. And we'd love to hear more about what else you want to hear from us.
Bye.
Take care. The Cast Compass Podcast. New episodes every week.
Follow, rate, and share with someone who needs a little direction.